the joint Budget and Finance Committee meeting and Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Council Abbott, have you had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting? Second, all in favor say aye. Aye, the minutes from the last meeting have passed. Council Abbott, do you have any items you would like to consider for the consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
On page 1, items 4 and 5. On page 2, item 8. On page 3, items 9 and 10. Page 4, items 11 and 12. On page, excuse me, page 5, items 13 and 14. On page, well, I guess that was it.
Okay, so those are items 4 and 5 on page 1, item 8 on page 2, items 9 and 10 on page 3, items 11 and 12 on page 4, items 13 and 14 on page 5.
No, 14, oh, excuse me, yes, you're right.
And then item 18 on page 7 is withdrawn. Okay.
I move approval of the agenda.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The consent agenda has passed. If your item was placed on consent, you may enjoy the rest of this nice afternoon. Otherwise, the first item is item number 6 on page 2. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary for the city to enter into a interlocal cooperation agreement with the city of Homewood for making certain improvements along Green Springs Highway in Homewood and Birmingham for repairing the drainage ditch along Green Springs Highway that bisects both cities for a term not to exceed 180 days and a total cost not to exceed $30,000. Afternoon.
I move the item.
Second.
Yes, ma'am. So my name is James Fowler. I serve as the director of the city's Department of Transportation. So this agreement proposes to partner with the city of Homewood to repair a drainage ditch adjacent to Green Springs, just north of Valley Avenue. So there's a CVS there, and there's a new church building that's there. There's a drainage channel that's on one side of the road. The maintenance for the road, it's in a kind of a funny shared location between Homewood and Birmingham. And so after we looked at it, we came to the conclusion that it really benefits both cities to make the repair there. In this case, Homewood would manage the project, and so they would clean up the drainage channel, actually install a curb along the edge of Green Springs there, and put in riprap or stone along the channel. And then also in one place in the channel, there's actually an exposed water line where the erosion has kind of uncovered the water line. So they would actually kind of recover that back up. So all of that, they've worked with some contractors that they've worked with in the past, and their pricing for that is about $60,000. And so we've proposed to split that with them, and they would manage the project. And so if you guys are okay with it, then we would go forward and pay them for our half.
Council Abbott.
Okay, so we're not going to put the ditch in a pipe. We're going to continue with it being an open ditch. We're just going to put riprap in it to keep it from eroding the highway.
For now, yes, ma'am. That would be a much significantly more expensive project, and so just what we'd like to do is just address the erosion issue. It's currently eating into the edge of the roadway.
Yeah, it'll get the highway pretty quick. So how long do we expect this temporary fix to last? Are we going to just do it and then hope that it lasts forever?
So there's no stone or aggregate out there today. If it's done properly, which is our intent, it should last a long time. And so I couldn't put a specific number of years on it, but it should be a pretty durable solution.
Okay. Well, I hate to see the highway get eroded because then the cars will fall off into the ditch. So, it'd be nice if we had a pipe, but I guess a pipe would cost 10 times as much. So, thank you, that was all my questions.
Okay, Madam Pro Tem? I don't have any questions. Okay, all right, with this being a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Item number 6 is passed. Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Next is item number 7. This is for the mayor to apply for a grant and execute and deliver an agreement and all required documents to the State of Alabama Office of Information Technology for the FY 23-25 Alabama State and Local Cybersecurity Grant Program, and accept grant fund disbursement to the city for determining current city cybersecurity readiness level, identifying key areas of improvement or enhancement, and providing pathways which will enable the city to acquire the necessary resources to strengthen its systems and processes. The funding request is $1,961,615.11 with a 20% match required from the city. Okay, Chief?
Yep, so I'll tag team this with Director Burrows, but we got a NOFO about security grants that was done through the state of Alabama. So, of course, with the things that have happened with the city of Birmingham with this cybersecurity issues, we found that this grant will probably be more amenable to try and help offset some costs, future costs that we need to kind of alleviate and be more protected. And why not go after a grant that can solve most of those problems?
Okay, gotcha. Madam Pro Tem, do you have any questions?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief. Just one more question. I'd like to clarify the use of these funds. Do you have anything specifically now? You're saying in case you have other issues that come up, or there's something specific at this time?
Yeah, so I'll let Director Burrows speak to that, but I think we're just trying to be more proactive
Okay.
with what we're trying to do with the funding, so we can not have that issue again like we had back in March.
Right, my name is Darrell Burrows. I serve the city of Birmingham as the interim chief information officer. We have we had a postmortem after the situation we went through earlier, and we're just trying to put together a plan to make sure that we are never in that position again. So we have about 6 initiatives that we're working toward. I don't want to say what they are, but we have about 6 initiatives we're working on, and so this would help facilitate that.
And so would this be, I know we don't want to specify what we're doing, but this is sort of like mainframe, cloud, software based, or just insurance, or just all of the
Right.
above, maybe?
All of the above except the insurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Counselor Abbott?
Yeah, and my question was, is this going to help us to determine if we've found all of the holes in our processes and in our software and in our equipment? Like, I know we identified
Yes.
some things during the bad times.
Yes.
But this is to make sure we didn't miss something?
Yes, ma'am. Threat actors move at the speed of sound, and we have to keep up with them, so we're constantly making assessments and adjustments, on an ongoing basis.
Well, I'm happy to see this. This is one of the most welcome $1,961,615.11 expenditures or grants we've ever gotten, and the 20% match will be worth it too, because that network disruption is still disrupting us. It's not finished yet. So, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I don't have any questions.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The item passes. Next item is item number, flipping, 15. This is a funding agreement with the PACE Board, under which the city will provide funding to the PACE Board in an amount not to exceed $10,000 annually for a term of 5 years, which may be renewed for 3 additional terms of 5 years, with such funding to be used by the PACE Board to reimburse allowable travel expenses of the Center for Negro League Baseball Research, a Texas nonprofit foundation which performs curator and resident historian services for the Negro Southern League Museum, and has loan artifacts being displayed at the museum. Okay. Chief?
Yep, so the long and short for this one is basically, we're using we're funding the PACE board for the contract for Dr. Ravel. Dr. Ravel is the curator and basically the designer of all the artifacts within the Negro Southern League Museum. So this is basically the cost that he pretty much comes in town, looks at the artifacts, make sure that we have the right temperature gauges in the museum, and he basically helps us curate the entire museum. Most of all the artifacts that are in the museum are Dr. Ravel's.
Gotcha, okay. Counselor Abbott?
Okay, I remember when Dr. Ravel came and offered up the collection, but what I wanted to know is, do we ever add anything or change out things?
Yes.
Are there new
Yes, he does it yearly.
items that are found, or does he have such a big collection that he's rotating it through Birmingham?
Yeah, he does a very robust rotation sometimes. Most of the things that are there now have been there since the museum came into inception, but he has done a couple rotation of things that he collects or things that were donated to him.
Okay, good, thank
So
you.
this is just his fee, because he has travel expense when he comes in, hotel stays, and we need him because it's his stuff, and,
Yeah,
he needs
it's
to
his
maintain his
stuff.
stuff.
He was very kind that he's loaned it
Yeah,
to
it's
us.
very, very, very kind of him.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Madam Pro Tem?
Thank you. I'm grateful to Mrs. Abbott for the historical knowledge, because I
Right.
wondered, was this travel for an individual or travel for staff?
No,
So-
it's for Dr. Ravel. That is his company, the Center for Negro League Baseball Research. That's his company.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion and a second?
I move approval.
All in favor say aye. Aye, the item has passed. Next item is item number 16. This is authorizing the mayor to apply for a grant, execute and deliver an agreement, and all required documents to the United States EPA for the FY 25 Brownfield Assessment Grants, community-wide assessment grants, accept grant fund disbursement to the city for the purpose of focusing on mapping brownfield sites, prioritization of brownfield sites, community engagement, both public and private landowners, assessment and identify potential cleanup collaboration in an amount not to exceed $500,000 with no match required from the city. Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Gabrielle. I serve as Chief Planner for the City of Birmingham. I think the description kind of says it all. If we do get awarded this money in October of next year, we would write an RFP to hire a consultant to do many of the things that are mentioned in here. I think in the past, we've had community-wide assessment grants, and primarily we use those funds to do assessments, which obviously that's what the funding is for, but you can do more with the funding than just do assessments. And so we want to take advantage of this grant in a more robust way and try and plan for kind of a brownfield program that the city would initialize going forward.
Okay, Madam Pro Tem.
Thank you. I apologize if you had this in our packet, but Chief Mitchell, I thought you did send us a list of brownfields or areas. We received that
Yeah,
previously,
that was
right?
something that we share with our state lobbyists, because they had that bill in the state legislature for brownfield remediation. So we can reshare that list.
Okay, if you just reshare that. And so this would be
Darren
used-
Perkins, it just came to me.
That's right. And so this would be utilized to sort of further assess those areas or determine other areas?
We could use assessment grant, or we could use the money to do assessments, the physical phase 1 and phase 2 assessments. But also, we want to use it in a more robust way to kind of really look at our brownfield situation at the city. I think we probably would prioritize North Birmingham and West Birmingham around Pratt and Inslee. But, to really understand, what brownfield sites are out there, what condition they're in, how do we prioritize, which ones do we intend to try and clean up first? And then probably most importantly, robust community engagement, not just with the public, but also with landowners. Many of these properties are held privately. And so, without talking to them, it's hard to kind of move the needle on those properties and how we can reutilize them.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you are bringing that audience in on this part of the process, because like you said, often these are privately owned.
That's right.
And so we need to see what we could do, utilize those. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Abbott.
Yeah, I recall that there's a state funding process also. So how does that process mesh with this process? I
It's
mean,
just-
this is federal money.
It's just a
coming in.
different funding source. It's just a different funding source. So if
Okay.
we want to use that leverage with the federal funds, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to, unless you know something differently than I know.
No, I think that's right. Yeah, the state program, it's a revolving loan fund that's available to the city for cleanup.
Okay, so after we identify all these places and engage with the residents and the owners of the property, then we can dive into the
the state funding.
state funding.
I think that's right.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay. Do you have any more? Okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye, that item passes. Thank you. Next item is item 17. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute and deliver an agreement with the Penny Foundation, which is a locally based nonprofit, in the amount to exceed $33,000 for a term ending on or before June 30th, 2026, under which the Penny Foundation will be responsible to provide professional assistance in order to administer a USDA, a UAIP grant awarded to the city to restore food back to Birmingham residents and increase access to quality, affordable, fresh foods.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Thomas Yule. I serve as the interim director for the Mayor's Office of Resilience and Sustainability. Before you is a contract with the Penny Foundation. As a reminder, the city received a grant from the U.S. Department of Agriculture called Urban Agriculture and Innovative Production to increase opportunities for urban agriculture for Birmingham residents and to reduce barriers for urban agriculture. As a part of that grant, we'll be doing a number of community and stakeholder engagement efforts. And in those efforts, Penny Foundation is a sub-awardee that will actually be providing compensation to those participating in those stakeholder engagement efforts. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Council Abbott.
Yeah, okay, so when I read the description of what this was, most of the money's going to pay people to attend meetings and participate. So who are those people? Are those residents, or are they business owners who can actually bring some food to the community?
So I think it's a mix of both. I can give you a list of kind of the people we're targeting, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Sure. So there's two kinds of assessments that we're going to be doing. A producer needs assessment, and in that we'll be targeting folks that fall into the categories of urban farmers, community gardeners, rural growers who primarily market and sell within the city of Birmingham. And then also the other assessment will be a market landscape survey in which we'll be engaging with people that are either farmers market staff, volunteers at farmers markets, or some type of other food selling, like local food selling operation, like a produce co-op or something of that nature.
Okay, so this is not to get any more grocery stores, it's to get
No, ma'am.
farmers markets and places where people can come sell their fresh produce.
That's half of it, is the farmer's market side. The other half is basically trying to encourage and provide opportunity for people to actually grow food. So it's the growing of the food and then the selling of the food at farmer's market or local markets.
Okay, so do we think that this food will come from community gardens, or are we going to zone more of our city of Birmingham property agricultural to really get bulk produce, or do we not know because we haven't surveyed everybody yet?
I think it's a holistic approach. I don't imagine we're going to be doing a whole lot of recommendation of agricultural zoning. However, community gardens, definitely, potentially people's backyards for very small scale operation that obviously doesn't impact their neighbors.
Okay, that'll be interesting to see what comes out at the end.
Sure, thank you.
And tell me again your title.
My name is Thomas Yule. I serve as interim director for the Mayor's Office of Resilience and Sustainability.
Resilience and sustainability. Well, I'm glad we're gonna have some of that.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Pro Tem.
So along the lines of Mrs. Abbott's questions, when I first read this, I was thinking more like community gardens. I know we have several neighborhood associations that have those. I think Bush Hills has a very robust program. So would you be more or less assessing or trying to encourage that type of use, or is this individual?
I think it's both. Again, I think it's a holistic approach. It's things that are positive for the community that also provide opportunity for people to grow and sell food.
Okay. And then when you say market landscape survey, tell me a little bit about what that means. Are you trying to figure out places that are farmers markets, or what does that entail?
Sure. So it would be a survey in which we're interviewing farmers market staff, volunteers, and staff or volunteers of other models such as produce co-ops, in which we would be trying to understand the barriers they have, the struggles that they have to create more opportunity for and have more throughput for food for residents.
Okay. So then at the end of this, then the result would be not so much education for these individuals, but we're assessing opportunity.
Right. We're trying to educate ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
got you. Thank you. That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I think I'm trying to understand too, what we're trying to do. So this is like for community gardens, local farmers, and I guess people will also have gardens in their backyards as well?
Potentially.
Okay, and we're paying people to participate.
Correct.
How much would they get?
Sure, it
33,000
depends on the
a month.
type of engagement. I can run through those. There will be 50 in-person assessments that will provide $100 per participant. There will be 100 online surveys, and Penny Foundation would compensate them $50 per participant. And then we will be forming a 33-member stakeholder group, and they will receive, I believe it's $149 per meeting across 4 meetings for a total of not to exceed $596 for 1 year of participation across 4 meetings.
I guess, I understand why you're paying the stakeholders, but I don't understand why they can't volunteer.
Sure, I can speak to that. It's
Yeah.
maybe kind of broad, but it's a growing trend in a lot of planning efforts
Gotcha.
to try and compensate people for their time. Their
okay.
time is valuable, and we have all U.S. cities have a long history of being kind of extractive
Yeah.
of resident and stakeholder knowledge and time, and this is an effort, and it's showing up more and more in more planning efforts across cities to compensate those people for their time and their knowledge.
Okay, is this only like fruits and vegetables and not livestock?
I can't imagine there would be much livestock.
Okay, no, I asked that
engagement
because
in
you got
this.
me the question about how we rezoned Titusville, for example, to have chickens, and it's been causing me problems ever since they found that out, for example. So I would love if we could reevaluate that, honestly, as well sometime soon. Okay, do y'all have any more questions?
I do.
Okay, Council Abbott.
For one thing, we didn't rezone to allow chickens. We added bees and chickens to the zoning. But you can't have a rooster.
I see
Roosters are
plenty of
illegal.
roosters.
And the chickens around me make plenty of noise, and so we didn't need roosters. But anyway, so the other question about, okay, there's gonna be 50 in person at $100 a person. And how many online?
100.
100. And then how many stakeholders?
33.
33?
Correct.
Sure it's not 33 and a third?
Correct.
I'd like to see that. Okay, so the land that people would be raising these fruits and vegetables, we'll assume on, will it have to be tested for pollution since we're such a highly industrialized city? And like Mark Steele, you could grow some food out in the yard, but you probably wouldn't want to eat it unless you had it tested because of the heavy industrial use. So there's some land, but it's not maybe safe land. So will we have, at the end of all this, will we have a testing program to make sure that we're not making people sick?
My understanding is that currently, all community gardens are required to test their soil before receiving, zoning and approval, to be established as a community garden.
Okay, so people's yards will also be tested if they're growing in their backyard?
I think that's maybe something we would have to review. Is that correct? Sure.
I'm Katie Davis, and
Okay, get close to the microphone.
hello, I'm Katie Davis, and I'm working with Thomas as the Contracted Food Systems Development Manager as a part of this grant. And so I'm shepherding part of this process through. And this stage is really about the city of Birmingham getting together with our partners in community gardens, farms, and markets to understand what's going on there. And so that at the end of our grant term, through this and some other initiatives we'll be bringing before you soon, to really have a full picture and to be able to make the best recommendations as it relates to those urban agriculture pieces at the end, and to have tools that citizens can more easily access the information associated with urban agriculture.
Okay, well, this is all good. I'm happy about it. It's just I always have questions. And the biggest question to me is the safety of the food that people are producing. And if it's produced on land that used to be, a lead battery processing plant, you sure wouldn't want to eat the food from there. So I think that somehow at the end of all this, we need to have a process to be sure that the places people are growing the food that we're going to be feeding to our residents is going to be safe food.
Yeah.
That doesn't, come back to haunt them in 20 or 30 years after they've eaten it.
Absolutely, and at the end of this process, we'll have some, either an associated website that citizens can access through the city of Birmingham, and also some print materials that'll help give more guidance to people who are starting urban agriculture projects so that they can both consider things from the city's aspect, but also health and safety, marketing, and how to get produce to citizens as well.
And I know from talking with Roald Hazelhoff with the Southern Environmental Center, there are actually plants that you can plant that will draw up the noxious materials and take them away. So as long as you don't eat that plant. So I know there are things that we can do, but in the end, I want it to be perfect in every way.
We do too.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President?
Yes, and I just have one more question. This is not the full amount of the grant. Will there be other monies left over that once you get the answers, then you can start an implementation phase or a planning phase for what you'll do with that information?
Yes, ma'am, and we'll be coming before you soon with some of those other pieces, but before we start some of this landscape analysis, we want to have in place the mechanism to compensate folks for their time when they are stepping away from their gardens and their work to come and speak with us about it. Yeah.
Perfect. And I know the Penny Foundation has worked with us before, so when you're selecting these 150 individuals, you don't know how they're going to do that. Is it through a lottery, or is it by district, or just people who want to participate?
That'll actually be run through me as the contractor in connection with this. And we've already been in contact with a large number of community gardens, urban farms.
And I just was wondering if there's a way we might be, we have some rural areas in District 7 that I think some individuals would really like to participate to see how to utilize their land in that way. So thank you.
Yeah. We'd be happy to reshare information about the original grant with you all so that you have more context coming up as we bring more things in front of you.
Thank you.
Counselor Abbott, are you?
I'm good.
Okay. Was there a motion and a second? I don't think so.
I move approval.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
If it's okay with the committee members, I would like to bring up 19 and 20 together. Okay, so item 19 is North Side Redevelopment, Caraway Infrastructure. Number one, a second amended and restated redevelopment project and funding agreement with Northside Redevelopment LLC, under which the existing amended and restated redevelopment project and funding agreement between the city and Northside Redevelopment dated January 3rd, 2023 will be further amended and restated to provide that the city will provide certain in-kind services in the form of certain public infrastructure improvements the city will construct in the vicinity of the former Caraway Memorial Hospital campus, a cost not to exceed $4,500,000 in support of Northside Redevelopment's project to redevelop the former Caraway campus and certain parcels through the construction of a mixed-use development. Number two, revolving line of credit agreement between the city and PNC Bank National Association, under which PNC will provide a $4,500,000 revolving line of credit to the city for a term of 3 years, with such funding to be used for certain public infrastructure improvements to be undertaken by the city. And then item 20, this is the ordinance to amend the general fund budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025 by appropriating $4,500,000 to non-departmental debt service principal / line of credit for Caraway Infrastructure. Funding source is loan proceeds. Okay. All right, Chief, Mayor, whoever. Attorney Smiley, I don't know who.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman.
Good afternoon.
Other counselors, good to see you all on the committee this afternoon. Before you has been presented, Madam Chairwoman has shared it. This is an infrastructure project related to the gateway of the amphitheater. Today before you is a host of team members representing capital projects, PEP, Department of Transportation, as well as finance and legal department. On top of that, you have Chaz Mitchell here, as well as Melissa Smiley, who serve as my core leadership team have been leading in this effort. On top of that, you also have representatives here from the BJCC, as well as Corporate Realty, as well as Live Nation. And so all of us here collectively are to present, give you detail of this infrastructure project, what it entails, as well as the source of funding, as well as how it relates to these other projects, whether it's BJCC / amphitheater and or the STAR project. With that said, Ms. Smiley is going to come up and give some detail, and then we'll just pass it to the next team member and or open it up for questions for team members to come in and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So Melissa Smiley, I serve as a Senior Advisor and Chief Accountability Officer for the Mayor's Office. And I would like to share a few things with you about the item that is before you. As you recall, this project began back in 2021. I feel like I'm really close to the mic. Began back in 2021. And when the city made its initial commitment to this project, there was an infrastructure ask. The project included not only the Caraway site, but there was an initial reference to the amphitheater site. And since that time, the project has morphed. There have been many iterations and changes to how this project is being carried out. So where we are now is back in 2022, when you approved the last amended agreement, there was a reference to infrastructure. We did not tie any specific funding to that, but this council did approve language which indicates that the city acknowledged that infrastructure would be required around these developments, and we also indicated that we would rely on our internal teams, which include capital projects, our Department of Transportation, and our Planning and Engineering and Permits team. And I'm here to represent to you that those teams have worked really hard and diligently with not only the Caraway site developers, but the amphitheater site developers to determine what amount of infrastructure should be included in Phase 1. And so in your packet, at the back of the agreement, there is an Exhibit F. If you'll turn to that exhibit, it indicates, it's marked by red and blue lines, the area that's going to be addressed by this $4.5 million ask that is before you. And so the team here can expound more on what that's going to include. The mayor has asked for priority to be given to streets, then sidewalks, then lighting. And so there are two strips of land that you see on those depictions where this infrastructure is going to be placed. It's to really just improve the experience of pedestrians that are walking toward the site, people that are moving toward the amphitheater site, that is on schedule to open. The construction will be finished in May. The site will be opened in June of 2025. And so as a city, we want to represent that area well when this amphitheater opens. And so we're just honing in on Phase 1, and we're just trying to do our due diligence and keep our promise that we made a couple of years ago, basically, to infuse this infrastructure. And then as far as the agreement goes in general, I want to point out a few things that we've highlighted. When this deal first began, the Caraway developers proposed to do everything. Well, since that time, the amphitheater has been turned over to the BJCC, which is why they are here, to speak for themselves. There was also a Parking Deck 3, which was a part of the original agreement. As you know, because you approved it, the city exercised its option to take that parking deck back, and we have transferred it to the BJCC, and that work to restore that parking deck is being done at BJCC's cost, not the city's cost. And what I understand is that that parking deck will also be ready when the amphitheater opens. And then beyond that, the Caraway project team is still working on various aspects of its site. If you drive by there, usually you can see activity on site. They may not have kept to their initial official schedule, but they are continuing to work, and we are continuing to push them. So I could go on and on. We brought a lot of team members here, and I know you want to probably hear from some other people. So at this point, I would like to invite you to ask me questions if you have any, or if you want to hear from some of the other team members. They're here to address you.
Okay, gotcha. Committee members, do you want to ask Attorney Smiley questions, or do you want to hear from other team members?
I'd love to hear that. Our presentation, and then unless if Ms. Smiley would still be available for questions, but if Mrs. Abbott wants to ask some now, I'm okay.
What about you, Council Abbott?
Oh, yes, I'd like to hear everything.
Okay, we would like to hear everything.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chairwoman, I think the next presentation, part of the presentation, let's do this. Let's have PEP, no particular order, PEP, transportation, and capital projects come up. And let's give them a detail of what the actual infrastructure is in detail related to, if James Fowler, if you can lead this effort, please.
Hi, and again, James Fowler. I serve as the director of the city's Department of Transportation. So in coordinating with the developer, we foresee infrastructure improvements on the city's right-of-ways, so to the city's streets and sidewalks, occurring in 3 phases over the life of the project. And so what we're here today to discuss and define a little bit further is infrastructure in that first phase. And so what's proposed is infrastructure that will specifically service or help people access the areas around the amphitheater. And so one of the things that's always been important to the project is a good pedestrian connection between development that already exists in the uptown BJCC area and this new development that's a part of the STAR, so specifically in this case the amphitheater. And so we're starting with sidewalk and street improvements up 24th Street. So from approximately the stadiums, that's 12th Avenue North, up 24th Street 2 blocks to 14th Avenue, and then it jogs over. So creating a pedestrian path north-south between the amphitheater and the Protective Stadium today. So with that would include sidewalk ramps, some sidewalk replacement and repairs, and then also so resurfacing those streets, and then there's some lighting that would be installed as well to facilitate crowd movement between those different facilities. So that's the first phase, and we're anticipating that that's about $4.5 million. Is that correct? Correct. And if you don't know, I'm looking at Mr. Alan Walker. He's Deputy Director in Department of Capital Projects. We work closely with him. Additionally, there would be some sidewalk and street improvements along 25th Street North. So that's a street that runs directly adjacent to the stadium as well. And so we want that facility, when the stadium opens, for the streets, the public rights of way, to be clean and accessible, not to be hazardous, to be well lit. So that's the first phase of the project.
Okay, and those streets were 25th Street North, and what was the other one? I'm sorry.
24th Street, so 24th Street and 25th Street.
Gotcha, okay. All right. Is there anything else? Okay.
I think that's it. One other nuance, there is a kind of a curved road that runs from 26th Street or Caraway Boulevard into the hospital facility. We're actually gonna, as a part of this first phase, straighten out some of the curvature there so that the site is just more developable, and it works better for transportation and safety generally. So.
Okay. Thank you. Who's next?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
We're gonna hear from the mayor.
Okay, the mayor.
Yes, ma'am. This is big writing. Before speaking, please state your name and address for our records. I'm Randall Woodford.
Well, it's nice to meet
See
you.
Mr. Evans' face? All right. At this time.
I always said you were cute.
Don't blow his head up.
Madam Chairwoman and councilors, at this time, I actually want Jay Wilson of Live Nation to come up and share his thoughts on why it's important to marry their timeline with this infrastructure project.
Hi, I'm Jay Wilson with Live Nation, based here in Birmingham. We've been working on this project for many, many years, and we are great partners with the BJCC and the city, and we're very excited about what's going on up at the Druid Hills neighborhood. We're building a world-class 9,000 capacity amphitheater that's going to welcome fans and patrons from all over the southeast and the city of Birmingham and the state. And we're excited to offer them an exceptional experience before, at the concerts, and after the concerts. And I think with what y'all are talking about today, I was mentioning this to the mayor a couple of weeks ago, we have one chance to get this right. Our company is going to book a lot of world-class entertainment, and these patrons are going to come to the Druid Hills neighborhood, that first show on June 22nd. And we really have one chance to get this thing right. And I just appreciate y'all listening to us and considering this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It's nice to meet you. Did you want Council Abbott?
Yeah, I just had one question. You said you're building the amphitheater?
We're building it with the BJCC. It's the BJCC's building it in conjunction with Live Nation. Yes, ma'am.
And Live Nation, what are you contributing to the construction of the amphitheater?
We contributed a sizable sum of money along with the city, the county, and the BJCC.
Well, I was just trying to remember how much that was. You know, we see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of projects come through here.
Sure.
It boggles your mind after a while.
I bet. I know that it was many millions of dollars. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's,
Plenty million.
Madam Chairwoman, to your colleague's question, if Tad Snyder can come up and join this conversation.
Okay, Mr. Snyder, do you know the answer?
Tad Snyder, Executive Director for the BJCC. Live Nation's contribution is just a little over $7 million to the project.
You said 7?
Just a little over
7
7.
million. Okay, thank you.
So you want to go ahead and
Sure.
give more update on where the construction is, progress, et cetera, et cetera?
Absolutely. So if we step back, and I know it's been a period of time, and I know you see a lot of projects, so just to kind of revisit this one. The initial projections and the funding that was secured for the amphitheater was around $50 million, with $30 million financed, $20 million that was contributions by the BJCC, by the city, by the county, and by Live Nation to buy down the borrowing. Since then, there's been an additional roughly $4 million split between the BJCC and Live Nation for some additional features of the amphitheater. That gets to the 7 for Live Nation. And then the BJCC itself is funding the repairs and renovations to the 2 parking decks. One that was part of the project originally, which is about another $2.3 million. And then the repairs to the larger parking deck that was the city of Birmingham's that was transferred to the BJCC with the commitment to renovate it and modernize it. And that's probably going to be roughly, unfortunately, in the $5 or $6 million range that the BJCC is funding. So that's the total project mix. Yeah, so fortunately, with construction especially, originally getting out of the ground and all that, foundation work, the fact we haven't had a lot of rain has been very beneficial to the schedule. So we're on target to complete construction in May of 2025 with the first show in June of 2025, which was always the original timeline. We shared all along it was an incredibly aggressive timeline, but at least today, the path shows us getting there. And again, construction completion in May and the first show in June of 2025.
And it seems like I have a recollection that we funded demolition of the old buildings.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that
Brian Wolf is here to give an update on, from corporate realty standpoint related to the STAR project.
I think maybe we're just adding one more thing. So the demolition that occurred on the amphitheater site, the BJCC paid for, along with purchasing that property from Corporate Realty. And the city funded, I'll let Brian speak to that.
So this separate, so what you have here, I want to, Madam Chairwoman and your colleagues, I just want to overstate that what you see here is a partnership, various partners, City of Birmingham, BJCC, Corporate Realty, Live Nation. The demolition, again, on the site for the amphitheater was not paid for by the city. So to your colleague's question from Ms. Abbott related to, did we pay for demolition? The answer is yes. That was demolition on the STAR, formerly known as the Caraway site, not the amphitheater site, that is owned and managed by BJCC.
Okay.
So what we wanted to do was, look, it would be real easy to say, here's an infrastructure project. We're going to let capital projects come over here and tell you what that is. But we wanted to give you a comprehensive scope of what's going on with all the partners together, so you can have a full scope of what's happening.
Good afternoon, Brian Wolf with Corporate Realty. Thanks for having us here. I hope you are sufficiently confused. I do want to say this. As you can tell, we have a lot of team members involved in this project. And what I'll say is, between the city and the BJCC and Corporate Realty, there has been a lot of collaboration over the last 7 years to make this project a reality. And we are very grateful for that and very thankful that this team is here and has worked so diligently together to get it to where it is today and to where it's to go. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We're about 90% done with demolition. The last 10% of demolition on the Caraway site are the buildings kind of on the north side of the site that are still standing. We have applied for a HUD grant with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. One of the kind of interesting rules around HUD funding is you cannot touch the asset during while the financing is in the application phase. And so we've had to stop demolition for a period of time until we get clearance from HUD. We expect that'll happen probably in the next 45 to 60 days, and then we will resume the last 10% of demolition. We get that question probably the most from both the Druid Hills neighborhood and the Norwood neighborhood. We continue to tell them kind of what our timeline is as we know more and more updates, but I wanted to answer that question.
Okay. Madam Pro Tem, do you have any questions for Corporate Realty? Council Abbott?
Okay, so are you Corporate Realty or Northside Development?
Both.
You're both?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So you're 90% finished with the demolition of the old hospital buildings that aren't on the amphitheater footprint?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but you had to stop with the last 10% because HUD wouldn't let you work on it while you were asking for money to pay
For
for
a loan,
it.
correct.
Okay. So the HUD funding is a loan.
For an attainable housing project, which is outlined on Exhibit F that Melissa referred you to. If you'll look at that exhibit that's part in your packet, it is the site that's labeled Q3 of 2026, at kind of the bottom of
Okay.
Block C.
Oh, here it is.
I'm sorry. That'll be one of the first projects we work on.
Oh, I gave it to Council Abbott.
Is this the only one? No, everybody has it. Oh, okay. I was horrified if I'd hogged it. Okay, so the HUD money is to build housing,
Correct.
and the housing's gonna go where the buildings are that you couldn't tear down while you
That's
were
correct.
asking for HUD funding.
That's
But the HUD funding is definite. You're getting it, right?
Not definite, we're in the application stage, and we're 2/3 of the way done with the application, the full application. HUD has a kind of a 3-step process in their application process, and we're in step 2 of 3.
Okay, so you can't tear down any more of that building until you get an answer.
If we get this answer in phase 2, we will be able to start demolition.
Okay. I gotcha.
Okay.
So there's another group of folk here,
Okay.
because this is the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. There is a price, and then there's a structure of the price, and then source of funding. And so at this point in time, I'll have combined Finance Department as well as Mr. Haywood, our bond counsel, come up, if they can, give a brief presentation on the financing structure for this infrastructure project. And then he may have questions on that. We can go open it up for Q&A.
Okay, gotcha. If y'all could tell us, the interest rate and how many years we have to pay it back.
Diana Bolden, I serve as the Chief Financial Officer. The interest rate is based on the SOFR overnight rate, which is right now 6.1. And PNC is here, I don't want to misquote. It's 6.1, and the term is for 3 years.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to know?
That's basically it. It's the 4.5, 3 years,
Okay.
and the rate is 6.1.
Okay.
And it's a variable rate as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and this is for which money?
The 4.5 million.
The 4.5
Yes,
million
ma'am.
line of credit.
Yes.
Six
I'm
point
Jessica Payne from PNC, so if you had questions, but it is repayable at any point. If y'all decided you want to pay it off early, it's a variable rate, so there's no penalties for early prepayment or repayment. It's revolving, it's taxable, so a few of the different structures in there based on the source of funds, but as you heard, 6.11%, and that is variable. In the current rate environment, we're expecting that would continue to go down as rates go down, so you get to take advantage of that declining interest rate environment as well.
So as the interest rates decline federally, our rate will go down.
That's right. It's based on that overnight funding rate, but that is very tied to that general interest rate environment. So we're expecting another rate decrease probably in early November, probably in early December. You would see that rate go down on any funded debt. You're not paying that interest on anything that's unfunded. So it's just when you would borrow against the line, that would be the amount that you would pay interest on monthly, and then that rate would potentially be decreasing month by month.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Pro Tem, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you, and I'm not sure if this is for this group or if we're gonna have someone from, capital projects to come up. I guess my question is, I know this is very important to the overall project, and the infrastructure is, of course, very important, not only to the Druid Hills and the Norwood and even Uptown, to make it a beautiful experience for people when they come into the city. We've done a lot, but we've wanted to make Birmingham a destination place and investing in this. And so I know it's going to be, you've got to spend money to make money. Don't have any problem with that. I guess my only, when we start talking about sidewalks and street improvements and lighting, I just have to think about the people that I represent that have been living among this for so long. And so now we're gonna take this investment. Is it something we could do in the future? Because, I mean, people have been living with bad sidewalks and streets. We get 10 streets paved last year, or maybe 23 segments, excuse me. But that's, you know, how large T7 is. So I guess I wanna hear something from you, Mayor, or your team of how we can bring this type of investment to our own, the people that are struggling, just want to improve quality of life.
Yeah. So I got 3 counselors here who I know your other 6 feel the same way you do about their district. And then I got 3 counselors here who probably feel are even more sensitive to infrastructure related to sidewalks and other infrastructures in their district. I'm sensitive to what you're sensitive to. And, excuse me, I want to go higher than the 12.9 million currently. That's in arrears. So then it went to 14.5 next. We now have, at some point where we can share it, because I haven't even seen it yet, the streets where they'll be ordered. So then we'll have an organized way of showing our residents, hey, this is literally the order of what we will be doing in all of your districts as it relates to street paving. James Fowler has been working and his team on what to do with existing sidewalks and the sidewalk plan that we have to increase funding for on a yearly basis. And so I think we'll be able to eventually get to sidewalks citywide. There's been a lot of priority on street paving that you've seen, that you all have supported. It probably won't be at the same price as streets, but we have to significantly increase the multi-millions that we're giving to sidewalks. You'll see a phased-in increase every year the same way you've been seeing street paving distributed citywide. So even with this project, we're not going to stop paving streetwide. We just need to put more money to it so we can get to more segments. And I know sidewalks has been your bread and butter for 20 plus years.
And I hadn't gotten any yet. I'm getting ready to leave and I still hadn't gotten any.
Well, 2 things. One, I want Aaron to share with you all debt services because you need to understand that. And while he's doing that, I'm about to have a conversation with James Fowler, and then we'll come back to the mic.
Because I guess we're assuming, are you going to talk about how we're going to pay it back? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's really
I was just
important to
making
this,
sure.
really important to this project, yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Captain?
I'm Aaron Saxton. I serve as the Chief Compliance Officer for the city in the Finance Department. We have the intent on paying this debt back a lot sooner than the 3-year maturity. As Ms. Payne stated when she came up here, there was no penalty for early payment. And because the state has recently passed laws that make the bond reserve fund is able to be used for payment of warrant debt service now. And so I think that this debt would be applicable and would be, we have the intent on paying it off the first year.
Look, we want to pay it off early. I hear the term variable, I think the same thing you do. And while we are extremely grateful for our friends at PNC, it's not PNC we're worried about. We're more, young Metro don't trust the feds when they move and how slow they move sometimes. So yeah, we want to pay this off early.
Okay. Committee members, do you have any questions? Or do you want to continue?
Not about the financing.
Okay. Would you like to say something? Do you have anything?
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman. I'm Hayward Hush, the bond attorney for, I actually prepared the document. And no, I thought Ms. Payne did a wonderful job. I would mention to the committee that, of course, this is a drawdown and you don't have to, you won't be necessarily advancing the whole $4.5 million. You very well may, but you only pay the interest on what you drew. And it is under 772, so it's exempt from the debt limit.
Okay.
That's all I would add to a very excellent summary. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, who's next?
I think James Fowler needs to come up here and say some things. While he's doing that, Denise Bell couldn't be here, but I want to be, again, sensitive to what you're sensitive to. So understand the political nature of what we deal with. We have citywide things we need to do that are strategic in mind and have return on investment. And then hey, I represent this district. This has been a priority. These are the needs of my district. Help me balance that. So one of the things, again, just for Ms. Abbott's district alone, your ARPA sidewalk projects are now programmed. So bid process complete. Now everybody's different with their ARPA dollars, that's fine. He's gonna share some information in a few minutes about our continued relationship, citywide sidewalks with ALDOT, that we think we can do some things next year in the calendar year of 2025 from a program standpoint that's going to put a dent in some of the repair programs. Of course, we got the BRT sidewalk work that's underway as well. But I wanted him to add, on top of what I've just said, some things overall related to citywide paving as well as what we have to eventually get to in sidewalks. Mr. Fowler?
Sure. So we're trying to do both to the extent that we can manage, meaning both invest citywide and make strategic targeted investments where they're going to have some of the greatest impact. So citywide, over the last 6 years, we have invested over $60 million in resurfacing, and that continues at the pace that we've been going. And I think we've all seen the impacts of that, and so people are feeling that in their neighborhoods. Resurfacing, and that work continues. Additionally, I don't have an exact number in front of me, but I do know that over the last 6 years, we've invested millions in sidewalk repairs across all the different capital projects that we've done. So a few that I could name as an example. So we're about to move ahead with a significant amount of sidewalk repairs along the BRT corridor. We also have a citywide sidewalk project that is about to move forward. I think that's about a $2 million project. The Green Springs Phase 1 project, and then there's a Phase 2 that's coming behind that. And then recently done was 2nd Avenue South through the Lakeview District. There's a significant amount of sidewalk repairs in Fountain Heights, 17th Street North, so that's 17th, 16th, 17th, 18th kind of changes names, so there'll be sidewalk repairs there. And we've done a bunch more that I don't have that list in front of me, but it's millions of dollars in sidewalk repairs. Additionally, we've done citywide ADA repairs, and leading up to the World Games, we invested in a significant amount of money in pedestrian improvements to help get access around our facilities. So we are absolutely trying to do both. In a targeted fashion, it's important that we're investing. I think because Phase 1 looks like it's the amphitheater is getting the emphasis here, but actually the Star development is a lot more than the amphitheater. So there's housing and retail and services that are going to benefit that whole area. And so the infrastructure improvements that we're making, though the schedule is tied to the amphitheater, they're going to provide access to all of the things that come with that development. And we foresee that Caraway corridor between downtown and North Birmingham being a major transit corridor in the future. And so this is one of the major kind of stops along the way. So it makes sense to strategically invest in what is, has been a blighted location up until now, to turn that around, and it's along some of the other major investments that we want to make. So we're trying to do both at the same time, citywide and targeted.
Okay, Councilor Abbott, do you have any questions?
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we've done some infrastructure work, we've done some sidewalks, but you know, they weren't in our neighborhoods. They were all in conjunction with economic development projects so that they would look good. I'm looking for sidewalks in neighborhoods where residents who live in Birmingham like now, and maybe they've lived here for 5 or 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years, where those people get to walk on a nice sidewalk that's not a danger to their health. I have received at least 5 photographs of people's faces that have planted them on our sidewalks because they were heaved up, 6 inches. I myself ended up in the emergency room over our sidewalks. Fortunately, I only hit the side of my head and broke my finger instead of having a smashed in face. It's the residents I care about. I know economic development is important. Mayor Arrington used to talk to us, neighborhood officers, so I spent 17 years hearing how all of these economic development projects were going to provide more funding, and then we'd get to the neighborhoods. Then I've spent 23 years as a city councilman hearing, we're going to do these big economic development projects, and that will provide funding for the neighborhoods. But you know what? We never get very far into the neighborhoods.
Ms. Abbott?
And so I find that to be frustrating that my 40 years of trying to be involved in my city, that I've heard the same stories about how this was going to, it's the Ronald Reagan trickle-down theory, but nothing ever trickles down. And that's my frustration. I'm not mad at you, and I'm not mad at you, and I'm not mad at anybody except the circumstances where we tell people these big economic development projects are going to bring in lots of money, and then we're going to get to your neighborhood, whatever, and we just don't get there. There's a little bit here and a little bit there, but in reality, the residents always get the short end of the stick. And I just personally find that to be frustrating because I'm a resident of Birmingham, and I see it because I walk the streets just about every single day. I trip over the same things the residents trip over. So I just find it frustrating that big wheeler dealers come in here with these wheeler dealer projects that sound so good, then we get nickel and dimed to death with this little piece and that little piece, and something else came up we need to pay for. And you get through and you think, well, this fabulous project just didn't turn out to be that fabulous because the public paid for it instead of the developer who came up with it. So I'm just going to be quiet, and I don't think you can say anything that's going to make me feel any better about this because these are facts. These are facts. And they touch all of us. Mm-hmm. It's not just me. I gave the mayor a real snippy answer when he was talking about the infrastructure that we were going to talk about today. And I said, there's a whole lot of people in my neighborhood that are waiting for infrastructure. I'm sure you probably heard that from at least 8 other people. And we just heard it from Counselor Alexander. So I just think that at some point, we need to do one of these big high-flying projects and then rush into the neighborhoods and fix some stuff and say, see, it raised all this money and we're coming to the neighborhood to save you. That would be nice.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Madam Chairwoman, to your colleague's point, I don't want to take away, you're good. I don't want to take away or try to downplay your colleague's frustration. Ms. Abbott, I don't want to try to take away your frustration at all. I agree with your frustration. We came in and we made a lot of assessments. We did a lot of listening. And the city has been behind in its infrastructure for years. The only time it supported neighborhood infrastructure projects was going to the bond market. We haven't been to the bond market. The economy hasn't allowed us to go to the market. At first we came in, we needed to get our pension together. Because our pension wasn't together, we got downgraded as it relates to our ability to borrow at the rate we wanted it to, because our credit rating wasn't at a rate we needed to get it to. Well, we finally get our pension right, we get our credit rating back up, and this thing called coronavirus hit us. I don't have to tell you about costs at that point as it relates to anything. And then we've seen costs, and now we're just seeing interest rates go down. And so our ability to do these mega projects related to neighborhood infrastructure projects, we have to borrow money to do, which we want to do. We just got to get to the market at a time where we could make the most impact for our neighborhoods. That's one. Here's two. It was so important for us to listen to you, to 9 of you all as individually and as a collective body. It was important to us to listen to residents. It was important to us to listen to the majority of the feedback from 311. And in all of those things, year after year, the #1 infrastructure request has always been street paving. Ms. Abbott, I can show you. Maybe my words aren't strong enough, but I can show you. The majority of that $60+ million has been more in neighborhoods, not around infrastructure projects as it relates to streets. Now, we made a decision to choose streets over sidewalks because it wasn't just as squeaky as wheel in every communication platform from residents, as well as the majority of council, maybe not all 9, but the majority, it was paved streets, paved streets, paved streets, paved streets. The numbers, what you see me pointing my finger, is not the number of councilors, it's the number of years with the #1 infrastructure request. Just last year, over sidewalks, it was stormwater. Stormwater last year was the first time in the 7 years we've been working together that stormwater from the council was louder than paving streets. Except streets was second. Sidewalks still didn't come in first. And so you see us make strategic decisions in priority as it relates to money out of the general fund versus our ability to go to the bond market related to maximum impact. So just think, if you would, in one general fund year, can I do 12.9 million or 14.5 million in streets? And on top of that, do 14 million in sidewalks? I could, but what do we have to give up here if I do that? Employees don't get COLA, employees don't get merit, et cetera, et cetera. Something, I have to give up something to put that many millions in sidewalks. And so what you've seen us do, I can't speak for other administrations, but we don't believe in trickle down as an administration. I'm not going to tell you, if you invest in this economic project, I'll be able to get this. What I can tell you is that, no, we created this fund from these economic projects, and all of this money is going to go back into neighborhoods. A significant amount of that money is going to street paving, 60+ million. A significant amount of money has gone towards blight removal. A significant amount of money in partnership with private developers is going towards affordable housing in neighborhoods. Sidewalks hasn't been a priority. If this council told me through, talking to you all individually and collectively that sidewalks trump streets, you would literally see monies follow the sidewalks over streets. That doesn't take away anything you said. I just wanted to provide some context and some receipts on what we've been doing in neighborhoods.
I know you're trying, but let's just try a little bit harder
Yes, ma'am.
on sidewalks, because they're dangerous.
Yes, ma'am. Now, this is a rub, because I'm trying to speed our time up, but I know we're off what's before you, but it's important because I'm sensitive to it. Two things. I'm gonna give you the good, and then I'm gonna give you one that's a rub. When we have an individual issue on the sidewalk, because I get those requests too, separate from 311, separate from you. There is a pot of funding that we do to repair that piece of that sidewalk. Here's the rub. A lot of time it comes up against a full brick wall, it's in the top of the things you're passionate about. Do you know what I'm gonna say?
You're saying that we're gonna have to kill our trees in order to fix our sidewalks. Well, creative people have found a way to bridge over those roots and around those trees, because we have lots of city right-of-way. Sometimes it goes all the way into where people think it's their yards. So I know what you're gonna say about losing the trees, but there are ways around it for creative people.
Yes, I was simply gonna say that nature is gonna win every time, that's all.
It's true.
Birmingham, Alabama, Tree City. Nature is literally tree 1, sidewalk 0. Every time, that's all.
Bridge over, go around.
What about in DC? Because I've seen in DC where they had, what was that, Mayor Pro Tem? They had some little rubber square or something over it, where trees were with the sidewalks. I thought that was pretty creative. Have we looked into
I
that?
had to bring the expert up.
I
Or
know they
the
have more-
professional.
I know they have more money than us, but
To your question, we're going to continue to look at what other cities are doing. So we don't currently offer that, and it's not something that we're necessarily planning on offering immediately. So I will say this about sidewalks. To me, it is no different than any other maintenance issue, no different than buying a new set of tires on your car. Like, the tires are not going to last forever. So sidewalks, when we build one, it's not going to last forever. And so we need to be careful and intentional about where we build our sidewalks, and then plan for the maintenance, thereafter.
Here's a question. This individually, your sidewalks in 2 categories. Is there a priority over a repair of existing sidewalk versus new sidewalk?
Oh,
It's just-
I would take repairs, but the problem is every single square of some of these sidewalks for 2 and 3 blocks in a row is, every single square of it is cracked up and heaving.
How many
So-
trees are we talking to in these same blocks?
Oh, well, I can think of one street that I have a neighbor who calls me about every few months and wants to know why the heck we haven't done anything about it. And there are no trees heaving it up. It's just that the utility trucks have driven on them so much they're all broken to pieces. There is one street, 11th Place, where we're supposed to get traffic calming someday, and that one has the 6-inch heave-ups from trees, tree roots. I mean, 6 inches, 8 inches in some places. You can do a hell of a fall. So, but on the other ones, they've just, these big, huge trucks that we allow to drive on our sidewalks just crush them.
We talked about, I've talked to 2 of your colleagues today about more accountability measures as it relates to utilities and holding them more accountable. Mr. Fowler even shared with changing the ordinance with more enforcement and teeth, including the fines, if they don't repair right or don't repair at all.
Well, I know I've gotten us way off track, and I know everybody wants to go home and all that, but, so I'm good, but I could take you on a little observational trip
Let's do it.
in my little tiny car.
Who's driving?
Well, do you have great faith? Okay, I'll drive.
To answer your
yeah.
question on my end, Mr. Mayor, I agree with Mrs. Abbott. For me, it would be repair. We have certain neighborhoods in D7 where the sidewalks are completely overgrown. They almost don't exist anymore, so at least you have a sidewalk. But for some reason, wasn't any maintenance over the number of years. And so I have one resident who takes me on a ride every now and then, just constantly showing me where he's lived in this neighborhood for 40, 50 years, and what was once a sidewalk isn't anymore. So the only thing I'd just like to ask, I know we spent the $200,000 on the sidewalk study. Is that complete? And then I'll leave it alone. I just really want to know.
You're referring to the sidewalk evaluation that we did
Yes.
a few years ago. That is complete, and out of that has come recommendations for sidewalk repairs. And so there is a citywide sidewalk project that I can't remember the exact amount off the top of my head, but I think it's close to $2 million that those recommendations were taken from that effort. And so going forward, hopefully, we'll continue to find ways to increase the amount of money that we allocate towards sidewalks each year, with the understanding that paving has been the priority up to this point, but hopefully that kind of shifts going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I guess $250,000 for sidewalks is nothing. Like, it almost needs to be that per district, and honestly, I gave ARPA funding for sidewalks, right? And I almost couldn't tell a difference until they told my staff and I, oh, you see this little black square? This is what we did to repair sidewalks. And I was under the impression they were going to, actually repair it, not put a little rubber, whatever it was. And it doesn't look uniform, because you see these nice pretty blocks and then you see like this random black rubber. And, like I said before, I always thought sidewalks near schools definitely need to be prioritized. Our kids are walking every day. Their little legs and little feet, I worry about them going along. And Mr. Mayor, I talked to us about you earlier. I feel the same way as Madam Pro Tem and Councilor Abbott. I understand this is needed. I really do. But like I told you before, how can I look my residents in the eyes and say, okay, we have this $4.5 million loan for this, but hey, your streets and sidewalks, you'll get to it. But my question is, why wasn't this a part of capital projects? Why couldn't we put this a part of capital projects? I guess, why is the timing now? Why couldn't we address this earlier if this was in the contract?
Yeah, so two things. One, I want to speak to your last part about why now, why it wasn't part of capital projects. I'm going to answer last. I do want to come back out global, because I had him pull up the mayor's proposed operating budget fiscal year 2024. That you all approve this every year. It's the Neighborhood Revitalization Fund. It was $13.5 million in that fund last year. And the breakdown of that fund was literally $10 million for street paving. Then the second highest thing was $2 million for weed abatement. The third highest thing was demolition. If you follow our trend over the last 7 years as it relates to money going into neighborhoods, it's been those three things that have received the highest money as it relates to neighborhoods: street paving, weed abatement, demolition, over sidewalks. I am more than willing to huddle with you all as long as you want, if you want me to shift priorities and pull from those three things to put more in sidewalks. But that fund has been hovering around this amount for a few years. And as you see, 10 of the 13.5 we literally dump in streets. It's been the priority. Not to say sidewalks are not. We just go where the majority of the request is. So I wanted to state that. I think we can have a longer conversation about, is there an opportunity to shift away from demolition, weed abatement, and if not those two things, is it Is it 10 million for streets, or is it 5? Or is it, if we want to get to 15 million in streets, is it 10 for streets and 5 for sidewalks? Again, that's a conversation for a later date, longer conversation we can discuss. Related to your question, why now? We made this agreement. Our agreements are always subject to funding and funding source. A lot of this was dictated on where the economy was and the STAR being able to build their project. Clearly, like McCormick, clearly like other projects, there have been some either stop starts, not start at all, and anything related to cities right-of-way infrastructure investment are usually attached to going vertical with construction of one of these projects. Well, a lot of these projects haven't been able to get off the ground for various reasons, but a lot of it has been due to the capital stack and where the economy is related to interest rates, construction costs. So we never want to get ahead of a project like that until we know it's going to materialize, and they can usually go together. The last thing you want to do is fund an infrastructure project first, and the other project hasn't started, and then, as you said, everybody got to come up and cut everything you did new. So in the case of this project, all the partners got together, we agreed to all of our funding sources. We're able to do the amphitheater. Okay, now the amphitheater's getting ready to get together. The first phase is attached to both, not just the STAR project, but it's also attached to the amphitheater project. Now we're in a position where that's moving along, but we have this thing called a network disruption that didn't move along with our regular things we do related to our budget process. So in this position, whether it's in capital, whether it's in general fund, we're not able to give it to you out of any of those sources. But we still want to be on time related to the infrastructure investments with the start of this capital project, i.e. the amphitheater. In the case, what are our options? I huddled with the team. We thought it was the best option presented to us in lieu of what's happening with our other sources of funding to draw down on this line of credit that we've had for well over 5 years. I'm not sure how long we've had this line of credit. How long have we had this? We've had this line of credit since 2020 that we haven't drawn down on. And so I told them to get creative, to stay in timeline, what other options do we have? And it was presented this line of credit that we can draw down. That's how we got here.
Okay. Whenever we get the budget, which hopefully is soon, I don't want to take from street paving. I don't want to take from demolition. I don't want to take from weed abatement. I want to find somewhere else in the budget. I don't know how, I don't know where, for sidewalks, in particular, so. But do you all have any more questions related to these two items, item 19 and 20?
I do.
Yes, Councilor Abbott.
Okay, and this is for the powers that be who are talking to each other right now, and this is about the infrastructure for the amphitheater. We're not going to build it before all this construction is done because the contractors will just beat the bejeebers out of our new sidewalks and our new curbs and our new gutters and probably hit our new lights and knock them down. So is this infrastructure going to be done at the end after all the construction trucks and everybody are gone?
Good afternoon. I was introduced earlier, Alan Walker. I serve as the Deputy Director over Capital Projects in Ms. Denise Bell's absence. We've got multiple pieces of this infrastructure package, including some drainage pieces, sidewalks, as we mentioned. One of the last things to go down will be the paving as part of the kind of wrap up of this infrastructure package. So that's to allude to, not getting damaged during construction adjacent from the amphitheater.
Well, the sidewalks will be ruined after all the big trucks drive on them. I mean, if you put the sidewalks in first, unless you make them 10 inches thick, they're all gonna be broken.
We have a concurrent design with the same civil engineer that is working with the amphitheater. So they've sort of phased that out. You've got the parcel of the amphitheater and then the sidewalk package that runs in the city right away. So that'll be something that we will phase out with the contractor once it is bidded to make sure that that doesn't happen.
I think that's important. If we finally do some sidewalks somewhere, it would be nice for them to last more than a few months.
Absolutely.
Just my opinion. And as far as how to pay for it, weed abatement and demolition are the black holes of Calcutta, because the money goes in. You know the term, the black hole of Calcutta? Well, Calcutta's not here. This is Birmingham. We have a black hole. All the money goes in for weed abatement and demolition, and we never get anything back, hardly.
That's about to change.
Hardly. Now, we used to get 10% back before we had any laws we could use. And I know we've got the new law because we had a presentation last week. So I feel better. But if something had to go, it would be things with zero return. You know, if we have to cut something, it would be something that we get no return on. Because we'd get some return on sidewalks because people could walk safely. And since we've messed up the parking part of the zoning ordinance, they're gonna have to walk.
I tell you what, Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
again, I think the issues you all are sensitive to, I feel like I've shown I'm sensitive to as well. And I believe that once we're in a position to say whether our revenues are up, flat, or down, we can talk about the things that you all have deemed a priority. That's okay.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay, Madam Pro Tem, do you have any other questions?
Just one more question. With the timeline that's been presented to us, so construction will be complete May 2025, and then the site itself will open June 2025. With this money that we, if it's approved, and then we go in this, we're gonna wanna go in this direction, what is the timing then that you're saying? Do you have any idea what comes first? Is with the money, or how it coincides with the structure itself and being ready?
Absolutely. We've actually got the documents ready to go pending approval, and then we will take that to advertisement and bid immediately, and then start on 25th Street, first being the priority right there, separating the amphitheater and the Star Development.
Okay. And just one other question. When we gave back the parking deck, we gave it back to BJCC, what was the dollar amount, or what was the incentive or the finance around that? Is it just the cost of the building and then BJCC took it on? I was just trying to think, how did it benefit, or how did it play into the project?
How did it benefit the city to turn that parking deck
Technically.
over? The city would have been responsible for the restoration of that parking deck. At one point, we had an estimate of around $7 million, and we said no to that. So right now, the BJCC is undertaking it at its cost.
Okay. And that's that same area we drove up in one time in the car, and it was all.
Is it the big one where people used to be encamped out?
Okay. Yeah. I was just trying to get some relationship to cost and what we're doing. Thank you. That's it for me now.
Okay, Counselor Abbott, do you have any more questions?
No, I'm gonna be quiet now,
So,
finally.
what is the pleasure of this committee? Do you wanna vote yes, no recommendations?
I move approval. I mean, it's got to be done. This is the most logical thing we've done so far, is our own infrastructure, if you think about it. So I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, those items have passed. We don't have any old or new business. The next Budget and Finance Committee meeting will be on Monday, November 25th, due to Veterans Day on the 11th. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Move adjournment.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, guys.